This is your brain. This is your brain with brain fog. Any questions? Of course you have questions because you clicked on this video, and that is why I'm here today to answer all your questions about brain fog. What is it? What are the symptoms? What are the causes? And what are my top 3 tips that will really help snap you out of the fog and into the mental clarity you need to live your best life. So for those of you who are new to my channel, my name is Caroline, mental health nutritionist and mindset coach. As an OG anxiety sufferer myself, I know a thing or two about some brain fog. So I know these tips will actually work for you because they've worked for me. So you might want to take out your notebook, grab a pen, take some notes, and keep watching. So what exactly is brain fog? Simply put, it is the inability to think clearly. So even though it's not characterized as a disorder itself, but rather a group of symptoms, it is still a cognitive dysfunction that has the following symptoms: memory problems, lack of mental clarity, poor concentration, and an inability to focus. Have you ever found yourself reading a book? You're a couple of pages in, and then you realize that you have no clue what the author is talking about, what you just read. You don't even know what's actually being said. And so you have to go back and actively try to read the pages, but even when you're trying to focus and concentrate, you still can't understand what's really being said. Well, that is a perfect example of brain fog. So let me know, is it just me, or do you guys also struggle with the same thing? I need to know I'm not alone out here. So just remember, with brain fog, your mind feels very scattered. So it's very hard to focus and very hard to concentrate and really difficult to retain any type of actual information. So now that we know what brain fog is and its symptoms, let's have a look at some of the causes. Nutrient deficient diet or dehydration, and the majority of brain fog is usually caused by anxiety and stress, but other ailments include hormonal changes, migraines, anemia, autoimmune disorders such as fibromyalgia and lupus, hypothyroidism, and the side effects of medication. It's always a good idea to have an annual blood test just to make sure that everything's okay and everything checks out. Then move on to the following tips that I'm about to share with you after you've already done so. So tip number 1 for curing brain fog is reduce overstimulation and visual inputs. Our brain is overstimulated from all the information, all the visual inputs, and also these dopamine hits that we're constantly exposed to. Especially now with everything that's going on in the world, our brain is literally being pulled in every single direction all at the same time. It's really hard for your brain to actually keep up with that. It gets overwhelming. Every time you see a new text message, a new email, a new video, your brain goes through a dopamine spike. But consistent misuse of pleasure activities creates addiction and leads to overstimulation in the reward center of your brain. It also makes it that you need more of that stimulation to have the same level of pleasure and excitement you once did. So baseline doesn't feel good anymore, and then you feel anxious when you're just sitting around and you need another hit. It's very similar to a drug. And I know that you're probably thinking, Caroline, I need to check my email for the 8,000 times a day. I just need it. I can't stop. But you have to remember that those dopamine spike after spike is actually really taxing on the brain and is leading to your brain fog. Keep in mind that your brain is up against some really powerful companies like video gaming apps and social media apps that really are purposefully trying to keep you on the platform for as long as humanly possible. They have studied all this stuff very thoroughly. They have hired the top psychologists to make sure to use this information to their advantage to keep you on their platforms forever and ever. Having this fragmented attention is the result of all of this. If I were to take you and put you in a chair and spin you around and then stop you and then tell you to focus on one exact point, it is going to be very hard for you to actually focus and concentrate on that point because you've already been scattered everywhere. So this is exactly what's happening to us in our brain. We wake up with our phones, we go to sleep next to our phone, we work with our phone, we play with our phone. It's taking up a lot of brain energy, and it's making it hard for us to do anything else. So when it's time for us to sit down and actually focus, it becomes really difficult to do so. Also remember that there's a lot of visual input, like especially on Instagram, Explore page, or TikTok, that your brain is constantly having to process these images. They are really, really taxing on the brain. And we do this for hours upon hours, all day, every day. Your brain needs rest from all the stimulation and visual input. It's up to us to create those firm boundaries with those type of things in order to ensure our own well-being. A good idea would be to periodically just do a social media detox. And also you want to think about your physical space and what the visual stimulation there is like. Your brain likes clear things and organization. So if you are surrounded by a lot of clutter, that will also be very taxing on your brain. I think of Kanye West and Steve Jobs, and if you ever have a look into their homes, you'll always see there a lot less furniture, basically to reduce visual input and overstimulation so that they can actually retain the brain energy to be able to create and build the things that they actually want to build. And another thing, you'll see that sometimes when people are talking to you like one-on-one, like we are here, they will just look up when they're actually trying to think about something. So you might say something to me and they'll be like, well, and the reason they're doing that is because in that moment they're trying to reduce the visual stimulation and the visual input so that their brain can actually process the thought better. So the way to deal with this is to think minimalism physically and digitally. Spend less time on your phone and gadgets, clear your space, that will clear your mind. Tip number 2, address subconscious stress. So what are the underlying things that are really bothering you? Be mindful, check in with yourself, connect with yourself consistently, because prolonged stress and anxiety leads to brain fog. So you can't just keep denying it or shoving it under the rug or pretending like it's not happening. You need to actually address it and let it out. And that's why journaling is such a powerful tool, because you're able to really just let it out and get it off the brain. Think of it like you're unloading the burdens on the brain onto the paper. So writing in a stream of consciousness or free flow writing is a really great way of actually just letting out your feelings and letting all those things off of your brain. When I feel really anxious and scatterbrained, one of the first things that I do is I'll get a pen and paper out and I'll literally sit down and write point by point what exactly is bothering me. But of course, this requires a certain level of honesty with myself. I have to be honest about what's really bothering me. And sometimes that's not easy to just admit that that thing is bothering you. But once I actually write out everything, I instantly feel 60% better. The other thing I would say for avoiding subconscious stress is to avoid procrastination. Jeff Bezos says stress comes from ignoring the things that you shouldn't be ignoring. Basically, the gap between what it is that you know you should be doing and actually doing it is stress. So the bigger the gap gets from the time that you know you need to do it to the time that you actually do it, the higher the stress level gets. So you always want to close that gap up as much as possible so that you don't have that much stress. If you have an email that you need to write or an essay that you need to write for school, the more and more you let it linger, the more you procrastinate on it, the harder it's going to be to write it and the more stress you're going to encounter. So always think about closing the gap and really dealing with procrastination. The other thing I would say for reducing your subconscious stress is try to simplify and organize your life as much as possible. So try to automate things as much as possible, delegate things, delete things that are not important. So if you have a lot of bills to pay, you don't want to think, oh, I have to pay that bill on that day and this bill on that day. You want to have a system that actually works for you so you don't have to use your brain energy to actually remember all these things that we have to remember. I like to use my calendar to tell me when I have to pay bills, or of course you can use an automated thing from your bank account directly. Just whatever is going to simplify and organize your life as much as possible to make it easier on your brain. And the last thing to reduce the subconscious stress would be mindful meditation. So mindful meditation really just relaxes your brain, but it also teaches you how to be okay with baseline and just being in the moment, being relaxed and not needing that pleasure or that excitement or that next hit of dopamine that we're always looking for, and just being okay with baseline. Tip number 3 for curing brain fog: create healthy lifestyle habits. Number 1, sleep is key here. Sleep is the most important thing. You need to be sleeping at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep a day and sleeping at the same time to get in a nice little rhythm that your body is accustomed to, and that will help you to get deeper sleep. Sleep deprivation leaves the brain exhausted, and while you sleep, pathways between nerve cells in your brain help you remember new information. So it's really important that you get your sleep. The other thing is exercise. 30 minutes 3 times a week. Exercise improves blood flow and oxygen to the brain, reduces inflammation, and lowers levels of stress hormone. Drinking enough water is also really important, and staying hydrated, because water helps transport oxygen and nutrients that are critical to optimal brain health. Also, you want to avoid common food allergens that might cause inflammation. But definitely want to limit inflammatory foods foods like refined sugar or known allergens such as soy, gluten, and dairy, which are known to cause inflammation. Also, avoiding neurotoxins such as aspartame and MSG is really important to keep your brain and cognitive health going strong. And of course, you want your diet to be rich with omega-3 fatty acids, which are really important for cognitive health and brain health. And if you watched my last video, I talk about so many foods that are rich in omega-3s, or you can watch it up here somewhere. If you're looking to supplement and you can't get enough salmon in your diet or other types of fish, then I would say to use fish oil. It's very rich in omega-3s, which is also really important for the brains. But of course, whenever you do any supplementation, it's better to talk to your doctor or to consult a registered nutritionist like myself to make sure that everything is okay. There's no contraindications or anything like that. So at this point, you might want to do a screenshot. This is just a quick recap about all the things that we've talked about today that will help you cut that brain fog out and increase your mental clarity. So at this point in the video, I hope that you found it helpful in how to finally get rid and lift the brain fog and step into the mental clarity that you really need to live your best life. So if you're feeling the vibe, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And if you do subscribe, don't forget to turn on that bell notification. I'll be back next week. Remember guys, health is wealth. So much love, so much peace. Till next time.